My sister Nia stood there at her baby shower, 7 months pregnant, one hand on her perfectly round belly and the other holding a champagne glass filled with sparkling cider. The afternoon sun, streaming through the country club windows, caught her diamond wedding ring as she raised her glass for a toast. At least my baby will have a father, she said, looking directly at me with that smile she'd perfected since childhood. The one that looked sweet to everyone else but felt like a knife to anyone who really knew her. The room erupted in applause. 40 guests clapping like she'd just announced a cure for cancer instead of taking a direct shot at me and my son. My mother, Donna, actually stood up from her chair, nodding with approval, like this was some kind of motivational speech. My 10-year-old son, Devin, sat beside me, his small hand finding mine under the tablecloth, and I could feel him trembling, not with fear, with something else I couldn't quite identify yet. But what happened next made everyone in that room wish they'd kept their mouths shut, because my quiet, observant son, the boy they'd all written off as another statistic from a broken home, was about to detonate a truth bomb that would shatter their picture-perfect world into a million pieces. My name is Ree and I'm 35 years old. Work as a marketing manager at a tech startup downtown, and I've been raising my son alone for the past 2 years. Not by choice initially, but now I wouldn't have it any other way. My ex-husband Troy left when his gambling addiction finally caught up with him, draining our son's college fund and maxing out credit cards I didn't even know existed. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Tuesday in March, and I remember walking out of that courthouse feeling like I could breathe for the first time in years. Devin is the light of my life. He's 10, but sometimes when he looks at me with those serious brown eyes, I swear he has the wisdom of someone who's lived 100 years. He reads everything he can get his hands on, builds elaborate Lego cities in our living room, and has this way of noticing things other people miss. His teachers call him gifted. His counselor says he's remarkably well adjusted. My family calls him unfortunate. My sister, Nia, is 32 and has always been everything I'm not. She married Mike right after college in a ceremony that costs more than my annual salary. She has the kind of life that looks perfect on Instagram. The colonial house in Westchester, the brand new SUV, the designer maternity clothes that cost more than my mortgage payment. She sends out Christmas cards every year with professional photos where everyone's wearing matching sweaters and genuine-looking smiles. Mike, her husband, is 34 and owns a chain of real estate offices across the tri-state area. He's the guy who shows up to family dinners in a polo shirt and khakis, talking about market trends and investment opportunities. He calls everyone buddy or sport, including me, which always makes my skin crawl. He likes to remind everyone that he's a self-made success, that he built his empire from nothing, that he knows what it takes to be a winner in this world. My mother, Donna, is 58 and has never forgiven me for divorcing Troy. In her world, women stick it out no matter what. They make it work. They don't air dirty laundry or admit failure. She raised Nia and me in a house where appearances mattered more than reality, where we learned to smile even when things were falling apart. She still introduces Nia as my daughter, the wife of a successful businessman, and me as my other daughter. My father, Carl, is 60 and operates on a simple principle: avoid conflict at all costs. He's perfected the art of being present but not really there, of nodding along to whatever my mother says while retreating into his newspaper or his golf game. He taught me how to change a tire and throw a curveball, but he never taught me how to stand up to the people who were supposed to love me most. That baby Shower was supposed to be Nia's crowning moment, the celebration of her perfect marriage producing its perfect offspring. The room was decorated like something out of a magazine with pink and gold everything. There were games with prizes, a candy bar style to match the decorations, and a cake that looked too beautiful to eat. Everyone there had been carefully selected to witness and validate Nia's success story. What none of them knew was that sometimes the people pointing fingers have the most to hide, and sometimes a 10-year-old boy can see truths that adults spend their whole lives avoiding. I should have known the baby shower would be a disaster when Mom called me 3 times that morning to remind me to dress appropriately and not make this about you. The first call came at 7 while I was packing Devon's lunch. The second interrupted my shower. The third caught me as I was trying to wrestle Devon into his good polo shirt, the one without the tiny stain on the collar that I'd been hoping no one would notice. I'm serious, Mom said through the phone speaker while I fixed Devon's collar. This is Nia's special day. She's been planning it for months. Just smile, give your gift, and try to blend in. Blend. That had been my assigned role in the family for as long as I could remember. Be quiet while Nia shined. Don't make waves while Nia sailed smooth waters. It had been 2 years since my divorce from Troy, and apparently that was still the family scandal that defined me. The thing that made me someone who needed to blend in rather than stand out. The Rosewood Country Club looked like something from a movie. When we pulled up, my 8-year-old Honda Civic felt out of place between the Mercedes and BMWs in the parking lot. Devon noticed too, though he didn't say anything. He just straightened his polo shirt one more time and grabbed the gift bag from the back seat. You remembered the card, right, Mom? He asked. And I loved him for trying to make sure we did everything right, that we didn't give them any ammunition. I remembered everything. Baby, we're going to be perfect guests. The garden room had been transformed into what looked like a Pinterest board come to life. Pink and gold balloons formed an arch over the gift table where presents were already piled high. Mason jars wrapped in lace held pink roses and baby's breath. Banner reading, "A Little Princess is on the way," stretched across one wall in glittering letters. There were even those elaborate centerpieces on each table, the kind with floating candles and pearls that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. About 40 guests were already mingling when we walked in, their voices creating a buzz of excitement and anticipation. Recognized most of them immediately. There was Mrs. Peterson from Mom's church wearing her Sunday best even though it was Saturday. Mike's mother, Gloria, was holding court near the dessert table, her thick Connecticut accent carrying across the room as she told anyone who would listen about how excited she was to finally be a grandmother. Nia's book club friends clustered together near the windows, all of them in sundresses that looked coordinated without being too obvious about it. Remember what we talked about? I whispered to Devon as we paused at the entrance. If anyone says anything that makes you uncomfortable, just squeeze my hand twice and we'll take a break. Outside. I know, Mom, but I'm okay. We're okay. He said it with such conviction that I almost believed him. Almost forgot that last week he'd come home from school asking why his cousin-to-be would have something he didn't. Dad. My relationship with Nia had always been complicated, shaped by years of comparison and competition I never asked to be part of. Growing up, she was the straightest student who made the honor roll every semester without trying. Was the B student who stayed up until midnight to pull my grades up. She was the one who dated the captain of the football team and went to prom in a dress that made her look like a princess. I went with a group of friends and left early to watch movies at someone's house. She married Mike in a ceremony with 200 guests and a reception at this very country club. I married Troy in a courthouse wedding with just our parents and his sister as witnesses. But here's what the family photos didn't show. I was happy in my simple life until Troy's addiction turned it into a nightmare. Nia might have had the big wedding, but I'd had real love at least for a while. And when that love turned toxic, I had the strength to leave. That had to count for something, even if my family didn't see it that way. Mom greeted us at the door with her practice smile, the one she used for church functions and family photos. She was wearing a new dress, pale yellow with tiny flowers, and her hair had been professionally styled that morning. You made it, she said, as if there had been any question. And Devin, don't you look handsome? She leaned in closer, lowering her voice so only I could hear. Try to be happy for your sister today. This is her moment. Don't ruin it with any of your drama. My drama. As if existing as a divorced single mother was something I performed rather than simply lived. The trouble started during the gift opening, though looking back I should have seen it building from the moment we sat down. Nia was center stage, positioned in a throne-like chair, decorated with ribbons and miniature baby bottles. She glowed in her floral maternity dress, a designer piece she'd made sure to mention cost $800 when she'd shown it to me last week. Mike stood behind her chair, his hands possessively placed on her shoulders, playing the part of the devoted husband, like he was auditioning for a commercial. Oh, this one's from cousin Janet, Nia squealed, holding up a silver box tied with an enormous bow. She made a show of opening each gift, holding items up for everyone to admire, while her friend Bethany dutifully wrote down who gave what for the thank you cards. A designer breast pump from Mike's mother, a $1,000 stroller system from her book club, each gift more expensive than the last, turning the whole event into some kind of wealth parade. Then she got to mine. This one's from Ree, she announced, her voice changing just slightly, like she was preparing the audience for disappointment. I watched her open the gift bag slowly, pulling out the tissue paper piece by piece. When she finally revealed the quilt I'd spent 2 months creating, working on it every night after Devin went to bed, she held it up with 2 fingers like it might be contaminated. How crafty, she said, the word crafty sounding like an insult in her mouth. You always were good with your hands. Had to be raising Devin alone and all. The room shifted uncomfortably. A few people chuckled. That nervous laughter people do when they're not sure if something's meant to be funny or cruel. I felt Devin tense beside me, his fork stopping halfway to his mouth with a piece of cake he'd been enjoying. Each square has a different nursery rhyme, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I embroidered them all by hand. The back is made from organic cotton that's hypoallergenic. How thoughtful, Nia continued, folding the quilt carelessly and setting it aside far from the pile of approved gifts. Well, we can't all afford to shop at Bergdorf's. Some of us have to be creative with our limitations. Actually, handmade gifts are often more valuable than store-bought ones, Devin said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. That quilt probably took over 100 hours to make. At minimum wage, that would be worth more than most of these presents. Mike laughed. That booming laugh he used in business meetings. Look at the little mathematician. Too bad. Life isn't really about calculating hours, right, sport? It's about what you can actually provide. That's when Mom decided to insert herself into the conversation from her seat of honor at Nia's right hand. Some women just make Bad choices, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, looking directly at me. Thank goodness Nia learned from her sister's mistakes. She waited for the right man, built a proper foundation. Not everyone has that kind of wisdom. Mrs. Peterson nodded enthusiastically. From the next table. It's so important for children to have both parents a stable home. Studies show that children from broken homes struggle more with everything from academics to relationships. My grades are better than most kids in my class, Devin said, his voice stronger now. I'm in the gifted program. Of course you are. Sweetie, Nia said with exaggerated sympathy. You're doing the best you can with your circumstances. It's just that children need male role models, someone to teach them how to be strong, how to be providers. She stood up then, cradling her belly with both hands in that performative way she'd adopted since the pregnancy began. I just feel so blessed, she continued, her voice taking on a theatrical quality. At least, my baby will have a father. Someone to teach him how to throw a ball, how to tie a tie, how to be a man. Someone who will be there for every birthday, every baseball game, every important moment. Not everyone can give their children that complete family experience. The room burst into applause, actually. Applauded like she just delivered some inspirational TED Talk instead of systematically destroying her nephew's sense of worth. 40 adults clapping for a woman who just told a 10-year-old boy that his life was somehow less than incomplete, broken. Some of us are doing just fine, I managed to say, my voice shaking with controlled rage. Of course, you are, sweetie, Nia replied with fake sweetness that made my skin crawl. Devin seems adjusted enough, considering everything. It's not his fault his father chose gambling over family. We all just have to work with what we're given, don't we? Mike decided to pile on. Hey, the kid's got a good male role model now. Me, right, sport? Can teach him all those things Troy never stuck around for. Maybe take him to some ball games. Show him how a real man takes care of his family. I was gathering my purse, ready to leave, before I said something that would fracture this family even more than my divorce already had. My hands shook as I folded the napkin on the table, placed it next to the untouched piece of cake. That looked too pretty to eat but probably tasted like cardboard anyway. The chair scraped against the floor as I stood, and I could feel 40 pairs of eyes watching me, waiting to see if I'd make a scene. Prove them all right about the unstable, divorced sister who couldn't keep it together. Come on, Devin, I said quietly, reaching for his hand. Let's go. But his hand wasn't there. Instead, he was standing up, his chair pushed back with deliberate precision. His face had changed from the hurt expression he'd worn moments ago to something else entirely. That quiet, observant expression I knew so well had shifted into pure determination. The kind I'd seen when he decided to enter the science fair, even though he was the youngest competitor, the kind that meant he'd made a decision and nothing would stop him. Mom, wait, he said, his voice carrying across the room with a clarity that made everyone stop their side conversations. The room was still, buzzing with discussion about proper parenting and stable homes. Nia was accepting congratulations from her yoga friends about how lucky she was, how perfect her life was turning out, how her baby would have everything a child could need. Mike was shaking hands with some of his business associates, probably already planning which private preschool his unborn child would attend. Devin walked to the center of the room, navigating between the decorated tables with their pink centerpieces and crystal glasses. He stopped right next to the gift table where all those expensive presents were piled high, looking small, but somehow commanding attention. At first, people thought it was cute. The little boy from the broken home wanting To say something sweet to his aunt. Probably to apologize for his mother's attitude or to congratulate Nia properly. Mom smiled indulgently. What is it, sweetheart? Do you want to say something nice to Aunt Nia about the baby? Actually, Grandma, I have a question, Devon said, turning to face Nia directly. His voice was steady, almost conversational, like he was asking about the weather. Nia smiled. That condescending smile she'd perfected, the one that made you feel like a child even when you were right. Of course, sweetie. What is it? Do you want to know about the baby? Are you excited to have a cousin? I am excited about the cousin, Devon said, nodding thoughtfully. But that's not my question. He paused, and I swear you could hear the ice clinking in glasses as people waited. Something in his tone had shifted the energy in the room, turned it from patronizing amusement to uncertain attention. At Nia, he continued, his young voice cutting through the garden room like a blade through silk. Should I tell everyone about Uncle Mike's other family? The words landed like a bomb in slow motion. I watched Mike's face drain of color, his hand freezing midway through a handshake with Dr. Morrison from the country club. His perfectly styled hair suddenly looked disheveled even though he hadn't moved. The confident real estate mogul persona cracked like an egg, revealing something raw and panicked underneath. What are you talking about, buddy? Mike said, trying to laugh it off, but his voice cracked on the word buddy, that fake friendly term he used for everyone, suddenly sounding desperate. Kids say the funniest things, don't they? But Devon wasn't laughing. He wasn't even smiling. He pulled out his phone, the one I'd given him for emergencies only, the one he barely used except to call me when practice ran late. He held it up, not dramatically, just matter-of-factly, like he was presenting evidence in a science project. Last month when you took me to that baseball game, remember the one where you said you were teaching me about being a man? Devon's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath it. You said you had to stop by your office first, but we didn't go to your office, Uncle Mike. We went to a house in Riverside, a blue house with a broken mailbox and a swing set in the front yard. The room had gone completely silent. Even the catering staff had stopped moving, frozen with champagne, bottles half poured and plates half cleared. Nia's perfect pink and gold world hung suspended, waiting for the next words that would either restore it or shatter it completely. A lady named Brittany answered the door, Devon continued, each word precise and clear. She had brown hair and was wearing hospital scrubs because she's a nurse. And there was a little girl with her, a little girl with curly hair who ran to you and called you daddy. The room froze completely. You could have heard a pin drop on the country club's marble floor. Except no one dared move enough to drop anything. 40 guests stood like statues in a museum, their champagne glasses suspended midair, their fake smiles sliding off their faces like melting wax. That's ridiculous, Mike stammered, his usual commanding voice reduced to something thin and desperate. The kids, confused. I was showing a house to a client. You know how kids are. They misunderstand things. The little girl had your eyes, Devon continued, his 10-year-old voice cutting through Mike's protests with surgical precision. They're green with that little brown spot in the left one, just like yours. She was wearing a frozen dress and light up sneakers. She said, Daddy's home. When she saw you and you picked her up and spun her around, you gave Brittany an envelope of cash and told me it was our secret. You said boys need to learn that sometimes men have responsibilities they don't talk about. Nia's perfect composure started cracking like ice on a pond. Mate. Her voice was barely a whisper, But in the silent room it sounded like a scream. Baby, it's not what it sounds like. Mike started moving toward her, but she stepped back, her hand protectively covering her belly. You've been visiting them every Tuesday, Devon said, still holding his phone steady. Every Tuesday when you tell Aunt Nia. You have late meetings with investors. No, because you picked me up from school 3 Tuesdays last month when Mom had to work late. You said you were being a good uncle helping out, but we went there each time. Brittany called you her daughter's father. She said Cadence had been asking when you'd move in with them full time. The girl's name is Cadence. She's 4 years old. My mother stood up so fast, her chair tipped backward, clattering against the floor. This has to be a misunderstanding. This child is lying. He's making things up for attention. I have pictures, Devon said simply with the same tone he used when presenting his science fair project. You taught me to always document things, Grandma. You said that's what smart people do. That's what successful people do. He turned his phone screen toward the room, swiping through multiple photos with the efficiency of a prosecutor presenting evidence. The first showed Mike on the porch of a small blue house hugging a little girl while a woman with long brown hair stood in the doorway. The second captured him pushing the girl on that swing set, both of them laughing. The third showed all three of them at what looked like a backyard barbecue. Mike wearing an apron that said, Dad's grilling. Nia grabbed the phone from Devon's hands, staring at the screen like it might change if she looked hard enough. Her face cycled through disbelief, recognition, and finally pure rage. She threw the phone back at Devon, who caught it smoothly and turned to Mike. 4 years, she screamed, her perfect baby shower voice replaced by something primal. She's 4 years old. We've been married for 6 years, Mike. 6 years. Nia, please let me explain. Mike reached for her arm, but she jerked away so violently she knocked over the gift table. Expensive presents crashed to the floor, the designer breast pump breaking open, tiny bottles rolling across the marble. Explain what? That you have another child? That you've been living a double life? That every Tuesday when you said you were building our future you were with them? Mike's mother, Gloria, let out a wail that sounded like a wounded animal. This can't be true. Michael, tell them it's not true. The little girl goes to Riverside Elementary, Devon added quietly. She's in Prec. Her favorite color is purple. She has a cat named Whiskers that Uncle Mike bought her for her 3rd birthday. I know because she told me all about it when he was inside, talking to her mom. You took my nephew to meet your secret family. Nia's voice broke completely. She grabbed the nearest thing, a crystal vase from the destroyed gift table, and hurled it at Mike. He ducked and it shattered against the wall behind him. Pink roses and water cascading down the wallpaper. The perfect baby shower dissolved into complete chaos. Mike's business partners were backing toward the exits. The book club women were either recording on their phones or pretending they weren't. Mrs. Peterson was crossing herself repeatedly while muttering prayers. My mother sat down heavily in her chair, fanning herself with a baby shower program, the pink and gold paper fluttering uselessly. Get out, Nia said, her voice dropping to something dangerous. Get out now. The baby think about our baby, Mike pleaded. You mean, like you thought about Cadence? Nia laughed. But it wasn't really a laugh. It was something sharp and broken. At least now my baby will have something in common with hers. A father who's a liar. The country club staff quietly ushered everyone out while Nia sobbed in the bathroom, her perfect makeup running down her face in black streams. The garden room looked like a war zone with overturned chairs, scattered gifts, and pink decorations hanging at broken angles. Mom went with Nia but not before stopping in front of me and Devon. Did you know? She asked me, her voice accusatory even now, even after everything that had just been revealed. Did you put him up to this? No, Mom. Unlike some people, I don't keep secrets that destroy families. I just survive the destruction of my own. She turned to Devon, her face a mixture of anger and disbelief. How could you do this to your aunt? How could you ruin her special day? That's when I stepped forward, putting myself between my mother and my son. Ha! Could you do what you did to him? He sat here listening to you all tear his mother apart, call his life incomplete, suggest he's damaged goods because his father isn't around, and you want to blame him for telling the truth? Devon looked up at me, then at his grandmother, his young face showing immaturity that broke my heart. Uncle Mike said I shouldn't tell because it would hurt Aunt Nia. But Aunt Nia was already hurting Mom. And you were helping her. Grandma. At least when Dad left, he just left. He didn't pretend to be perfect while living a lie. 2 weeks later, Nia moved back in with our parents. The divorce papers were filed within a month. Mike trying desperately to salvage something, anything. But Nia's lawyer was ruthless. Turns out when you document 4 years of deception, judges tend to be unsympathetic. Mike's other family came out of the shadows too. Brittany had been told he was separated and planning to divorce, that he just needed time to handle the finances properly. She'd been raising Cadence alone, believing Mike's promises that soon they'd be a real family. The family dinners are different. Nah, we actually have them for one thing. Nia doesn't laugh about my single motherhood anymore. She actually asked me for advice last week about raising a child alone. Mom doesn't make comments about bad choices or broken homes. She's learned what I always knew, that judgment has a way of coming back around, that the people pointing fingers often have the most to hide. Devon and I have grown even closer, if that's possible. That night after the shower, he sat on his bed while I tucked him in. Something he usually says he's too old for, but seemed to need that night. Mom, did I do the right thing? He asked, his voice small in the darkness of his room. You stood up for us, I told him, sitting on the edge of his bed. You showed them that being a single-parent family doesn't make us less than. It makes us honest. It makes us real. It makes us strong. He nodded, then said something I'll never forget. Mom, Uncle Mike had a father growing up. Dad had a father growing up, but they both became liars. Maybe having a father isn't the important part. Maybe having someone who teaches you to tell the truth is. The baby shower story became legendary in our town. People still whisper about it at the grocery store. How little Devon Matthews exposed Mike Harrison's double life at the Rosewood Country Club. But for me, it became something else entirely. It became the day my 10-year-old son taught a room full of adults that perfect families don't exist, that single mothers raise warriors, and that sometimes the people with the least have the most integrity. Nia had her baby 2 months later, a beautiful boy she named Oliver. I was there in the delivery room holding her hand while she pushed, being the sister she needed me to be. And despite everything that happened, despite the pain and humiliation and broken trust, she called me the next day while I was at work. I'm sorry, she said, her voice raw with exhaustion and emotion. For everything, for all those years I thought I had it all figured out. Thought my life was perfect and yours was the cautionary tale. None of us have it figured out, I told her. But now Oliver has something more valuable than a perfect family story. He has the truth. He has authenticity. That's a better inheritance than any lie no matter how pretty it looks, wrapped in pink and gold balloons. And, you know what? Devon and Oliver are inseparable now. My son is the protective older cousin, teaching Oliver about dinosaurs and planets and all the things that fascinate him. He's showing Oliver that families come in all shapes and sizes and that love isn't measured by who's present, but by who shows up with honesty and stays with integrity. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been judged for not having the perfect family, please share this video. Leave a comment about your own experience with family judgment or how you found strength in unexpected places. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories about real families, real struggles, and the unexpected ways truth finds its way to the surface.